Got two images here, one on top of the other. We've got this shot of the bride's dress, which is quite statuesque. The buttons in the back, and obviously this sort of ribbed bodice shot from the side back, and then obviously the grass there. And then on top of that, layer one, we've got this shot of the cake and obviously the knife. Now if I lower the opacity of the two, you can see the knife's obviously coming through the back area, and you could say she's going to get stabbed in the back. So you got to be careful of things like that and little subtext meanings. But what I'm going to do is once again just use a layer mask, and then using a brush that's nice and soft, good sized brush, I can then blend basically between the two, rubbing out the knife like so. So you start to sort of see the dress coming through, and we start to lose the detail in the knife like that. And this is another great montaging technique, to use an oversized soft brush to then bring detail through like we've got here. So you're getting a mixture of the two, just balancing in. And if you go too far, reverse your colours, and white obviously replaces the detail like so. You can see there it rubs it out, and there it brings it back, so just to get a bit of a balance between the two. There we go. So we've actually got a combination of two images working together, intersecting. And if you zoom in, you can see the overlap between them, and it's quite seamless with a soft brush. If we then maybe look at another image that we could maybe bring in, for example, the place setting here, we'll open it up, increase the saturation I think quite a bit, and also up the exposure and give it a bit more depth into it, because remember this is part of a montage, so we want it quite strong. And that's then going to open up, there we go. And we want to then bring that in and decide what elements we're going to work with that. So once again, drag it on top, hold the shift key down and let go, and that image lands over the rest of the images. Close down the original and you can see it there. So we can lower the opacity of it and decide what bits we're going to work with and what bits we're going to keep. So what we can do is obviously we want to keep the name tags, so add another layer mask and then rub away like so the detail in the cake, losing little bits of the feather ring down here between the cake and the last image that we blended, but keeping the favour in there, and bringing in again details within the dress but allowing the names to remain. And then we can increase the opacity and just see how good our blend's been. It's not too bad, maybe keeping it quite soft in the opacity. If you do want to strengthen it up, you can just basically click and rub away bits of detail so that the two actually blend through, and then just juggle the opacity of the layers between them. And you can see we've got this beautiful montage now of the cake cutting down the left hand side, and then you've got the favours and the place names here, and then the actual bride's dress coming down the right hand side, and they're all beautifully blending into each other, so that you have to obviously focus on different areas. And we can sharpen up the flowers here and actually make it coming through the name. If it goes too far, reverse your colours, shrink your brush, and just focus on the name a little bit more. But see how they're all overlapping? It makes for an absolutely superb montage. And then all you've got to do is apply adjustment layers of likes of levels to brighten up the specific areas, to make it all nice and soft. And what I would do from that point is probably make a duplicate, and believe it or not, flatten that duplicate down, and I've got a shortcut on my keyboard of Control M to flatten it down, and then probably apply a specific softener to a copy of a layer. So if I actually look through all my actions, we've got a nice soft focus deep in the shadows. So I'm going to do Control J or Command J, make a copy, and just soften this area up. There we go. And then that'll then allow me to blend it through. Now I've got two layers here because it's automatically made a copy, and I can actually then work it down through. Control M to flatten it again, and we can then reapply the original back on to the first. That then gives us the ability to control the amount of softness within the image. If it's not enough for you, actually get into the likes of Gaussian blur, or even the new box blur, which is really quite cool. Increase the radius of pixels that are going to be blurred out, and you can then use the blending modes to then overlay the effect of the blur, and you get this lovely airy fairy effect of the different montaging techniques blending through. And again, depending where you focus is what works for you. And then once again we can take some type and do a simple place it in the top corner. We'll worry about blending it through later on. And then do wedding. Again, commit the command, and last of, and you can just leave it like that. Link the two together using the shift key with CS2, and then that'll then allow you to position, and then individually you can then lower the opacities. So there's the going down to 50%. We'll do a scrubby slider onto the wedding. There we go. Doesn't have to be overly accurate, and sometimes different strengths work better. So leave that at 55%. And there we have another montage combining the wedding dress, the cake, the favours, place names, and a little bit of text in between. So montages are absolutely superb ways of just holding a wedding album together and combining extra images that you maybe wouldn't have used individually.